I know I told you guys that I wasn't going to do another video until next week and just recap game 3 and 4. But after game 3, I cannot help myself. I'm about to tell you why I think the Denver Nuggets won game 3. They won the third quarter. Like, they came into that second half on a run, on momentum, on rhythm. They sent their message very early. The Miami Heat in that third quarter came out so lackadaisical, very slow, very sloppy, as though the intensity was not there, as though this is not an NBA Finals on your home court. And the Nuggets really took that third quarter and ran with it. They made their adjustments. In the first half, Aaron Gordon was really just getting into some foul trouble, not finding his rhythm. You saw a lot in that second half. They started implementing that every person on him is a mismatch for him. You saw him start being on that block, going to the basket, running in transition. He found his rhythm. What helped the Denver Nuggets also? That Jamal Murray went into the game wanting to shoot the ball and wanted that to be the statement. I've said it before. To stop the Denver Nuggets, you can't stop Nikola Jokic. You got to stop Jamal Murray. You stop Jamal Murray, you have a better chance of winning. You look at what happened in game 2. Yeah, Joker had his points, but it was Jamal Murray that they slowed down and neutralized. They didn't do that in game 3. And Jamal Murray made it his mission to not even allow them to be able to do that. He came out shooting. He came out aggressive. That's why the Denver Nuggets won. I don't think they did anything spectacularly different than what they already do. They just do the things that they did well for game 3, and they did it with intensity and effort, what Coach Mike Malone has been saying recently. When you look at the box score, and like I said last time, box score doesn't tell the whole picture. And for the Miami Heat, I don't think the box score tells the entire picture since they lost. But for the Denver Nuggets, it kind of is spot on. You look at Jamal Murray, 34 points. He had 10 rebounds and 10 assists. Then you look at Joker, 32 points, 21 rebounds, 10 assists. He also is the first player in NBA Finals history to have 30, 20, and 10. Now, is that why they won? You can say that, sure, because if you have two players combining for over 60-something points, that's pretty hard to stop. But who gave them double digits? Because I keep saying this. To win a game, if you can have two players combining for 60 and then at least having one or two players giving you double digits, meaning 10 to 15 points, it's hard to beat a team that could give you that. Aaron Gordon, 11 points. Okay, that's one person that had double digits. This is where I said Christian Braun was earning his minutes in game 1 and 2 and that Coach Mike Malone was going to trust him more with this finals continuing because he gives a defensive spark. He runs in transition. He makes the correct pass. He's not forcing his shot. And when he is at the basket, he's finishing at the rim. Christian Braun came in 15 points off the bench. He's that spark for them in that second unit that really is getting going now. You had two players other than your two stars give you double digits. It's going to be hard to beat that. That just is what it is. Others struggled. Michael Porter Jr. is going to have to find his rhythm at some point. 2 points is not going to cut it for them to end up closing this out. I expected more from him, and I don't even think the Miami Heat are doing anything differently to him. I just don't think he's just found his rhythm. I don't know. Maybe more of the defenders are up on him than he's seen throughout the playoffs, but he's struggled. Caldwell Pope has struggled. He's getting into a lot of foul trouble recently, which I wonder what is the change for that. But they won, so you let that go, right? When we look at the Miami Heat, I do agree with what Coach Eric Spoelstra is continuing to do, which is put Kevin Love in that starting lineup. It gives you length on the floor. It gives you another shooter, and it gives you more depth. You can cover more ground. It helps your spacing just a little bit because Kevin Love isn't posting up. He's more so in the perimeter. So it gives you spacing defensively as well. He gave them 6 points, but again, you're looking at the minutes, 16 quality minutes. You could take that. Jimmy Butler and Bam both combined for over about 50 points. 28 points for Jimmy Butler, 22 points for Bam, 17 rebounds for him as well. Bam has been playing so well that I think some people owe him some apologies. Throughout this playoffs, has he struggled offensively? Yes. But defensively, this man is doing the best job I think I've seen on Joker throughout this playoffs. You can have your opinion about it, but when you're actually watching the game, I'm talking about watching what he is doing on Joker, you're not going to stop him. Simple as that, right? Can you make it hard for him? Yes. Did Joker get 30-something points Like, I know y'all are saying, well, how could he be doing a good job if Joker at least still scored 32 points? He scored 29 the other night. He scored 30 again one night, 40, whatever. At the end of the day, you got to make it a hard 32. You got to make him work for that 32. Bam is making him work for that 32. Joker is the greatest basketball player we are seeing right now in the NBA. Simple as that. Like I said, you're not going to stop him. But you got to make it hard for him. Make him work for that 32. Bam is making him work. He's making him work. And that's why when you see Joker getting the post game, he's like, that's just a stat. He's not getting this just easily. Joker's just amazingly unbelievable, right? He's going to score on difficult shots. But Bam is still making him work. Bam is making his presence felt. Bam, defensively, his bag is really deep when you think about it because he's able to guard out in the perimeter because he's quick enough. He's athletic enough. Then he could also be in the post and have to body people like Joker and really make his presence felt. But then you could put him in a lot of switches as well. And again, even though Joker is still getting his points because it's not going to matter who's on him, Bam to me is still doing the best job that we've seen thus far in at least making it challenging, making it hard, making him have to work, making Joker have to catch the ball outside of the box and of the post. Yes, Joker could shoot. Some people are going to be like, well, that doesn't matter. He still could shoot. He can, but Joker's bread and butter is that he is a big man, a true big man who just happens to be able to handle the ball, pass amazingly, and shoot the three when he needs to if he feels like that's the shot that he needs. But the bread and butter is that who's going to stop him in the post? Bam at least makes it challenging for him. Jimmy found his rhythm finally in this game because I just feel like he offensively hasn't been hitting since probably about game 2 to 3 of that Boston series where, again, I don't know if he just is trying to figure out how to be aggressive at the right time and also getting his teammates involved. That to me is like what I feel like he's struggling with just a little bit because when Jimmy has mismatches, when anybody is on him, I guess you could say that's not named Aaron Gordon, he's really getting to the basket and doing what he wants. You know, Jimmy gets that like baseline, give it to him, and he starts doing that hop jump right into the paint, floater, jumper, mid-range. Like, we know that's what he loves to do. And when someone who is not named Aaron Gordon is on him, he has his way. Because he has more body, he's a little bit more physical. But I wonder in this next game, for game 4, what does that change like? Do you get him started earlier than how he even got started in this game? Again, the others, I keep saying it, 1 or 2 people got to give you 10 to 15 points, at least, to make up for this. Gabe Vincent, 7 points. He was in foul trouble. That's a problem, right? You got to get him started early. Strus, 3 points. It's going to be hard for the Miami Heat to win any game if Gabe Vincent and Max Strus are not giving you at least 15 points. That's minimum 15. Like, you look at Duncan Robinson, 9 points. He didn't really get going off the bench. Then you see Lowry, 9 points. The most was given by Caleb Martin, which was 10 points. And like I said, in game 2, he struggled. He wasn't finding his rhythm. So that is a good sign. If you're the Miami Heat, that's a good sign because he was finding his shooting rhythm. He was getting to the basket. But you're going to have to get everybody else involved at some point. I will say this. If the Miami Heat lose game 4 and you allow the Denver Nuggets to go up 3-1, going back to Denver, I think it will be extremely difficult for the Miami Heat to be able to come back from that. Game 4 is a must win for the Miami Heat. They have to treat game 4 like it's game 7. They should have treated game 3 like it was a game 7 because that's where you want to be. You want to be up against this team that has so much depth and that is really good. Now they're a little bit in trouble because if you do not win game 4, Joker is somebody that I truly believe does not play with his food. He's not playing around, okay? Like he said in the post game, that's just a stat to him. Because at the end of the day, he understands that none of this means anything if we do not win this series. It's the first of 4. Simple as that. If you're the Miami Heat, that's how you got to treat game 4. This is game 7. This is our game 7 technically, because it is going to be so hard. The NBA Finals are something that you don't want to have to win the hard way. The Miami Heat will have to get this the hard way if they have to go back to Denver down 3-1. You want to tie this thing up and go back to Denver and just have to fight. That way, say you do lose in Denver, at least you know you're coming back to Miami. You could get that one, right? They got to figure this out quickly. And offensively, that is where they're going to have to fix things. Miami Heat's defense is not bad. It just, again, they just took the second half off. They came into the third quarter allowing the Denver Nuggets to do what they wanted. That's the problem. I also wonder what will be the adjustment to the switching when it comes to Jamal Murray and Joker doing their two-man game. I said last time that I preferred the Jimmy and Bam switching, meaning Bam could come up on Jamal and then having Jimmy go down on Joker. But now that I saw it yesterday and they really exploited it, this time in game 3, what I saw a lot of was Joker wasn't passing the ball back to Jamal in the switch. He went ahead and dominated his matchup, which is Jimmy Butler smaller than me. I'm just going to go up top. That's what you saw a lot in game 3. In game 2, Joker would kind of pass it back to Jamal because he felt like he had the mismatch with Bam. But again, Bam is longer. He's athletic and quick enough to kind of be able to slide his feet and get to where Jamal is trying to go. He takes up more space, right? And I could tell in game 3, he was like, okay, you're going to switch. I ain't going to give this back to Jamal. I'm going to go ahead and just dominate in the post with Jimmy on me. And that's what you saw a lot of. So now they're exploiting that mismatch. There's always going to be a mismatch in that two-man game when it comes to Joker and Jamal unless you're keeping Bam on him, but you can't. It's switching. He has to go up. Then I saw them do a lot this time of, even if they did switch, Jamal would kind of catch Bam not coming up on him immediately in the switch because Jimmy would immediately be kind of going under to go ahead and cover Joker just in case the pass was coming in. Jamal started saying, okay, you're going to give me a few seconds to shoot this thing. I'm going to let it fly. And he was hitting them. So I wonder what do you change about that? How do you try to react quicker? You got to keep a body on Jamal Murray at this point. He's making that known. You got to keep a body on me because if I get going and I will force myself to get going, you're going to be in trouble. And that's what you saw a lot of in game 3 where he was like, all right, I'm going to force this thing. Jamal Murray is one of those players that like, he just got to see one go in. He see one go in. He's about to start shooting from everything is a good shot to Jamal Murray once he sees one go in. Simple as that. Once he sees that go in, he's like, yep, everything's good. So the Miami Heat are going to have to try to play him up way more. Way more. I always feel bad for Gabe Vincent when he's in those switches as well because then he's on Joker. And it just has not ended well. They got to figure that out. How can you try to get the best possible person on these switches? At some point, I think this is where Kevin Love comes into play, being in that starting lineup, and maybe you can experiment with that a little bit. Is Kevin Love going to be able to really guard the perimeter? No, but maybe there's some variation of that to where you're not losing length and body when you do these switches with Jamal Murray, Joker, or whoever that may be. Cody Zeller gave better minutes in game 3 than he did these last few games. I still don't think that's the formula. I hate to say that. I don't think it's the formula. He just can't stay with Joker. He just can't. He tried really hard in game 3. So much credit to Zeller because he tried. He did. He really did. It just is not enough and it's not going to work. And those minutes just need to be extremely limited. I think at this point for the Miami Heat, it does not hurt you to start putting Hightower on the floor more. I think he's a great defender. I think he gives at least a little bit of length. Not a lot, but just a little bit. He's active on defense. He's also an offensive spark sometimes, especially in transition. I think it may be time to dig a little deeper and see where he could be implemented into this defensive offensive rotation at some point. I just don't think Zeller's the answer. I haven't seen it. I feel like we're too many games in to try to figure out if it's going to work or not. It's not going to work. I get it. Everyone loves to bring up, how great he was in college and number one. It's just not going to work for this series. I'm sorry. You got to figure something else out. And you're not going to be able to put Udonis Haslem out there. So at this point, you're going to have to figure out some switches. And I don't think Zeller is the answer. So if you're going into game 4, what do both teams do differently? If you're the Nuggets, the emphasis was to win the fourth quarter, but they put themselves in such great position to win the fourth quarter because of how aggressive they were in the third quarter. I think for the Nuggets, that's the key. You got to win the third quarter and keep that intensity because then you'll win the fourth quarter. First half for the Nuggets, even in game 3, they still were finding it. But that second half is where it clicked for them. I think for them to be able to really clearly solidify that they can win game 4, you have to see more from Caldwell Pope. I think that's an asterisk that I think really puts them over the top. And Michael Porter Jr. If Michael Porter Jr. gets going early in this game 4, they're in a great position. He brings that shooting for them. If you look in the season and the playoffs until the finals, Michael Porter Jr. was that person for them that, like, he was giving them those shots even when it seemed like the offense wasn't going anywhere. Corner threes, over there, top right key, threes. Very timely threes that we talk about all the time. Sometimes the box score doesn't say everything, but they're timely. He had a lot of timely threes where it just took the soul out of the other team. We're not seeing a lot of that against the Miami Heat, and he needs to find that quickly. If he finds that, it's going to be hard to beat them at all this series. So you got to see more from Caldwell Pope. You got to see more from Michael Porter Jr. I think Aaron Gordon is finding it still. I think he's in a good position. Again, he's defending a lot of the best players on the other team, especially as we've seen in this playoffs. That is a lot of energy to be able to do that and offensively produce. But I think if he's giving you double digits, 10 to 15 points, you're in a good position. Again, there's no one on the Miami Heat's team who can actually guard Aaron Gordon. And if you're exposing that matchup every time, you're going to win. The Nuggets will win in that regard because, again, there's no one to really stop him. Bam is pretty much the biggest person on the floor for them, who is with the task of guarding Joker. It's not too many else you could switch on to Aaron Gordon and how big he is, his height, his length, and ability to get to the basket. So that's going to be interesting to see what the Nuggets do to really get that going. And then for the Miami Heat, someone else offensively has to step up for you. Like, you got to go back to the Miami Heat that we saw against the Boston Celtics, because everyone else was giving up points other than your stars. They were winning that series with big games from Gabe Vincent, from Strus, from Caleb Martin, from Duncan Robinson here and there. That's how they were winning. Bam offensively wasn't just having great games against the Boston Celtics. Jimmy kind of started to teeter out towards game 2 and 3. So that's what you need. You can't go away from that now that your stars are playing well. Okay, this is the time for everyone else still to get their shots. And if you watch the Miami Heat, it's not like they're calling plays only for Bam or Jimmy. A lot of these plays are for Strus, are for Gabe Vincent to get going. So you got to utilize that. I hope to see in game 4 Strus come out way more aggressive. He went 1 for 4 3-pointers, 1 for 7 in field goals. It's not a lot of shots for a shooter. I think he has to up that, obviously. You got to keep shooting the ball. For Gabe Vincent, 2 for 10. And he was in foul trouble. That's another thing, right? He's trying to play such on-ball defense, especially on Jamal Murray, where he's getting in foul trouble. And I guess the question is, like, if he's not guarding Jamal Murray, who else could he guard? Because everyone else is really big. Like, that just is what the case is, where he has to guard Jamal Murray straight up. So that's the formula, I think, for the Miami Heat. Defensively, their zone works, I think. But then you saw them go away from the zone a little bit. Better yet, I'll say this. The Denver Nuggets understood that to beat the zone, you go to the middle, right? And you have Joker. That's hard, right? That's hard to do when you have someone like that who's able to understand that and know, like, I could just go to the middle, because that's how you pretty much beat a zone. But I think it still works for them when they're able to push Joker out of the middle and not let him catch the ball right there. So Miami Heat need to stay with that zone, right? That helped a lot, but you saw it kind of teeter a lot in this game 3. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do more so with the switches, and if they stick with this zone or they have to switch up. You really can't go man. I don't know if they could go man, because, again, you're relying on those switches. And they're going to exploit those mismatches every time. Like I said, there were switches where Gabe Vincent was on Joker, and it never ended well. So you got to figure out, how does that work in your favor? So who do I think would win game 4? I really don't like telling y'all who I think is going to win, because every time I say who I think is going to win, sometimes the opposite happens. I think because I know that they must win, I give the Miami Heat winning game 4 because I think they have to. You literally have to. You have to approach game 4 as though this is your game 7, or it's going to be extremely hard. Like, it really comes down to that. That is why I'm picking the Miami Heat to win game 4. Not because I necessarily think they're the better team or any of those things. It's that you have to. It's just going to be too hard for them to go back to Denver. And I'm not even thinking about the altitude in Denver. I'm just thinking how that team and Coach Malone, if they see that they are one win away from being champions, it would be hard for me to believe that they're just going to let that go. I think the Miami Heat have to go in their bag of experience. You've been in a finals before. A lot of those guys were there when they lost in the bubble. You got to dig deep and remember those experiences. Remember that you've been here before. You've been in a finals. You know what it takes. You know how the ebbs and flows go, the intensity of it all. You know what it's like to battle. They have to go back to that. You got Coach Spo, who is a champion. He knows what it takes as well. You got to go into that bag. You defensively, your intensity has to be up from quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4. You cannot let up. You got to keep that effort. They got to embody that Heat culture that they talk about and that we've seen with our own eyes throughout this playoffs. They're not even supposed to be here, and they are. They beat teams consistently, and that's what they got to go back to, that Heat culture that we saw. We didn't see that in that second half. That third quarter was not Heat culture, and that's what I think lost them the game. They didn't come out trying to take it. They were just there. So now game 4, you got to go back to who y'all are, what it takes, all 4 quarters. Simple as that. You got to go look at that tape that really won y'all game 2 and how you played defensively, how you were able to neutralize Jamal Murray and force him and make him make tough shots, but bodies were on him. Yeah, Joker's going to get his thing. You're not going to stop that, but you got to stop Jamal Murray. Then after you stop him, you got to make sure that Michael Porter Jr. doesn't start going off. Then once you stop him, make sure that Aaron Gordon isn't just getting to the basket when he wants to. It's a lot of factors that the Miami Heat need to do to make sure that they win game 4, but they've also won a game in Denver now. You know what it takes. Don't let them out-effort you. That's the whole thing with the Miami Heat. That's their thing, right? You're not going to out-effort us. We're going to work harder. We're going to be more aggressive. We're going to go at it. I didn't see that in game 3 in the second half. Now I need to see that in game 4 for these guys to be able to win, tie this series up, and go back to Denver and put the pressure back on Denver. The pressure's not on them anymore. The pressure's on the Miami Heat now. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do to make sure that that pressure can go back to Denver. Because I'm going to keep saying it, game 4 is game 7 for the Miami Heat. And if they want to win this NBA Finals, you must win game 4.